Okay, so hello, uh, good evening, everyone. So again, welcome here in Kotlin Meetup here in Productboard. My name is Václav Chalupa. I am senior software engineer at the Productboard inside Stripe. And today I would like to share with you a story how our tribe decided to switch from Ruby on Rails, Node.js, and TypeScript to Kotlin as the primary technical stack. So what I would like to share with you, some motivations and like reasoning why we actually decided to adopt Kotlin. Also quite interesting feedback from Java, Ruby, and TypeScript engineers after a couple of months using Kotlin and the Kotlin ecosystem. Couple of examples how actually Kotlin helped us to connect all the engineers from different technical backgrounds, and some examples of our technical stack and results. So how it looks like for us after like more than 8 months with Kotlin. So a couple of facts at the beginning and some motivation. I also already mentioned the tribe a couple of times. Tribe for us is group of team coordinated around a common feature area. So in our tribe, in the inside tribe, we have currently 4 teams, and we collect feedbacks for our customers from their customers and build some intelligence around it. We also own a couple of Node.js services and part of Ruby on Rails monolith. And in the middle of 2021, we identified a need that we should somehow unify our technical stack to build a common knowledge and to enable tribe-level hiring, because we know that the current pool of Java engineers is much higher than what we could get for Node.js and Ruby on Rails. So that was also quite pragmatic decision. So the reasoning for Kotlin. Kotlin is not new in Productboard. It's used already for 2 years by another tribe. So we know that Kotlin is definitely a production-ready solution for us. And we also believe that Kotlin and its like nice syntax and efficiency give us a really big chance to actually join the Ruby and TypeScript engineers together with one common stack. And of course, the benefit, the pool of Java, Scala, Kotlin engineers is big enough to support our expected scale. So it was decided that all new functionality will be written in Kotlin. Really simplified timeline of our adoption. August 2021, 2 Node.js guys decided to start with first Kotlin service. So one team of our tribe started with Kotlin, and it was really interesting that they decided to start with Kotlin without any Kotlin engineer or Java engineer on board. They just like communicate with the other tribe already using Kotlin. October 2021, first Kotlin engineer joined the tribe. It was me actually. And we started together with Ruby guys with another Kotlin service. So 2 teams start with Kotlin. We have public releases of our services in December and February 2022. And in March 2022, we were already quite stabilized with the technical stack, with some best practices what we need to use in our repositories, and we cleaned some initial technical debt. And now in April 2022, we consider Kotlin as like almost adopted. We are more playing than trying to build some bases. And currently we have 4 like native Java/Kotlin engineers and another other two in our pipeline. So how it began? What was like the initial Kotlin technical stack? As I already mentioned, we weren't like the first tribe with Kotlin, so we inherited the recommended technical stack from other tribe. And the Node.js guys started with the Gradle build tool, with the Kotlin DSL, and with Spring Boot framework. These times they didn't need to access database. That was great because it was much more simple. And they only need to communicate with Elasticsearch. And as you may expect, Kotlin as a programming language was not the most challenging part because we had a lot of hot moments with the whole JVM ecosystem and especially with Spring Boot magic and all around it. So now I would like to share some feedback from like different engineers with different backgrounds. And Java to Kotlin, it was really, really smooth because all of our current Java engineers are familiar with Spring Boot and with Gradle. So we just switched to something better, to like better language with better syntax, with null checks and all the cool stuffs. And we see only benefits. Actually, I started with Kotlin like 1 year before I joined Productboard, so I wasn't like totally new here. But I remember only one thing which required a little bit mind shift for me, and it was related to encapsulation in Java versus Kotlin. And it's like, okay, I need something private in my class, and if I want to show it to the world, I will create public getter. But in Kotlin, you are not able to create private property and public getter because you need to have the same visibility for property and getter. So I missed the private world keyword here because, oh, everyone will destroy my objects. And that's not true because just different, a little bit mind shift. And you can already see that Kotlin really saves your keyboards. So feedback from Node.js and TypeScript, guys, and the transition to Kotlin and Spring Boot. And it's already not so nice because like the first impression is that everything is so heavy. We need to download the gigabytes of binaries, build it, start it, wait for it, turn around it for each change. It's totally different world. Yeah, it's like compiled language. Another one, Gradle is super difficult. Yeah, I agree, it is, but it's powerful, but it's difficult to start with it. And interesting feedback, the TypeScript for them is still a little bit nicer than Kotlin. Actually, you didn't see Java, right? But it's a little bit subjective, I would say, but I can understand it because it's totally different situation than switching from Java to Kotlin because you have like everything better there. But they switched from really great language. I played with TypeScript for almost a year, and it's a really great language. And you are switching from something what you actually like to something different with similar capabilities. So it's not about so big wow effect as switching from Java. And yeah, the annotation hell, completely new world here. Annotation hell with Spring Boot configuration, services, components, transaction management, JSON mapping, like annotations are everywhere. Really positive feedback was regarding the debugger because it just works and it works really, really great. You can just run your software in IDE and the debugging is there. Better feedback we got from Ruby on Rails and Ruby developers. And of course, the same situation, annotation hell. but we had a really nice conversation about the situation with Ruby on Rails and the conventions there, because Ruby on Rails provide you really nice conventions. Everything is prepared for you. You know how to name things, where to put classes, how to do it. But on the other hand, it's quite hard to hack it, to do something differently. And with Spring, you still have really huge amount of freedom, of course, also the responsibility. So when we started with the Kotlin service and Spring Boot service, we had really nice like conversation about architecture, about interfaces, about layers. And it was like quite different thing how to work than the experience from Ruby on Rails. Positive type language, null safety, but again, it was like totally new world, because we started to think about architecture, about like class shapes, about design patterns. We introduced a couple of visitors patterns, and it was really nice to work with the Ruby on Rails guys on that. And again, great experience with debugging after Ruby on Rails. Yeah, here is one example of the annotation hell. Unfortunately, for our first REST API, we needed some subtypes there. And yeah, that's the way how to do it in Java or Kotlin library. So I would like to share now a couple of examples where I think Kotlin really helped us to join the Ruby and TypeScript guys. And I mean that it was really smart to choose Kotlin and not Java, only because like the pool of possible hiring. Because Kotlin definitely the nicer syntax, much more like better to transit to Kotlin from Ruby and TypeScript. Extension function, operators overloading, it helped us to improve the ugly Java API somewhere. And we really love data classes, and we use immutable data classes, and it's great. We can compare like data records. We can use it in test, so it's really awesome. So one example, a little bit like quiz for you for the syntax. Couple of examples like simple filtering of list in Java, Ruby, TypeScript, and Kotlin. So you can guess what's in which language. So let's say it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So where is TypeScript? You know? Yeah, that's TypeScript. Ruby. Ruby is 3. That's Ruby. And Java. Surprise. The first one. And Kotlin is the last one, and you can see that like using the concepts, the lambdas in Kotlin is really close to Ruby and TypeScript. So the transition here is not so terrible, like switching to the chatty Java with some streams API and so on. Here is example of operator overloading and extension methods. We need to get some headers from Kafka message. It's represented by consumer record from official Kafka library for Java, but you can get only iterable for all headers. So in case you need to like find some concrete header, you need to iterate over it, find it, and do something. In Java, we will probably create some utility classes, but it's much better in Kotlin, because you can create like array accessor by new operator function get for the headers iterable, and the result is that you can simply access the iterable as an array. And you can make it even better, because you can create a new method for the consumer record by the extension function, and you can then simply call directly the new method on the consumer record. So by a couple of such improvements, or like utility classes we use in Kotlin, we then we are able to like work around the ugly Java APIs. And the mention about data classes, it's awesome. We have plenty of data classes for almost for everywhere, for any shape what we need to use. We use primarily immutable classes. We have like data classes in all the layers. We don't share it. We map between them. We every time we know where the class was created, that it wasn't changed anywhere. Yeah, it's great. It's awesome for testing. And the tech stack we currently use, it's still like everything around Spring Boot. But really interesting choice we made was regarding the persistence framework. And of course, we could like select JPA, Hibernate, and criteria query. It's kind of standard like for Java. But I don't like it. I don't like Hibernate because it's another black box full of magic. And like bringing another magic box to Spring magic box and like put this to like, for example, Ruby on Rails engineers, which are working with active records, who just write some selects in one line. Yeah, it's really not a good idea to scare them with something like this with the API of criteria query. It's working, but yeah. So we choose JetBrains Exposed. It's library, it's Kotlin library. So again, it's great that we are using Kotlin. It's a library maintained by JetBrains, so it should work probably. And it's really simple library providing you some SQL DSL. It has also ability of object relation mapping, and it was also already adopted here in Productboard. So we were quite sure that it will work for our use cases as well. So we still have SQL migration in Flyway migration scripts. And the only thing what we need to define is this mapping between SQL types and Kotlin types. And then you like use it natively. It provides for you methods for inserting, querying, deleting, anything there. And it looks quite good. We only needed to create some own types for JSON, for example, some specific SQL types, but still the like ease of use is really, really awesome. Another two libraries which help us to make the code like nicer, especially for guys from Ruby and TypeScript, Aserj and Mockito for Kotlin, because it makes like writing tests much better. And last but not least, we also used library for Kafka for schema registry created here in Productboard, which allows us to use data classes for Kafka messages, and we don't need to use the official Java library, which needs some code generation with real ugly results. And we still have our data classes for everything in our Kotlin applications. It's called overall cellular for Kotlin using Jackson, and it's really, really cool. So, yeah, some conclusion. Where we actually are after more than 2 months with the Kotlin adoption. And the really good is that all our Java, Node.js, Ruby on Rails engineers can deliver value in Kotlin and can deliver the value with the expected quality of code. So we don't need to like help anyone more, so we are able to be productive. Unfortunately, the current situation is a little bit tricky based on current roadmap, because right now both Node.js guys are working on Node.js services and the Ruby guys are working on Ruby monolith to improve it. But we have planned a couple of technical initiatives, how to move our domains from the Ruby monolith to Kotlin services. So we will see how it will look like for Q2 and Q3, and we are quite optimistic. Yeah, and meanwhile, we are definitely hiring Java and Kotlin engineers. So that's all. Thank you, and time for questions if you have any. Okay. The question was whether we consider to use Google Truth instead of SRJ. The reason is that I don't know Google Truth, and SRJ is, I think, the default library with Spring Boot. So it's there as a dependency by default. Yeah, so I know it, so I choose it by default. That's the reason. But great point. I will look at it. Thanks. Yeah, whether we consider to use Kotlin also for front end. Actually, I don't know. I think that it's not the topic for discussion currently, because we think that we are really good in hiring front end guys with TypeScript and React, so we don't need to change it right now. Yeah, whether we are open to hire JavaScript developers for Kotlin position, I would say that definitely we are, but the current specification of the open position is specified for experienced Java. So primarily we are looking for seniors in Java to be able to switch to Kotlin, or Scala to be able to switch to Kotlin. Then create again the journey of learning someone completely new stack. But it depends on the ability of the concrete candidate. So we are definitely open to anything here. But the primary aim is for senior Java developers right now. Question here. Okay. Hello, which frameworks have you tried for server-side applications other than Spring Boot? I remember that the Node.js guys, when started, they want to try Micronode, but it was considered as too risky because they didn't have experience with Kotlin, with JVM, and no one here in Productboard had experience with Micronode. So we, our tribe is still using Spring Boot, but one of our other tribes also hate Spring Boot because of all the magic, and they are using some library HTTP4J, and it's quite successful. After 2 months and being more in the know of Kotlin, how many of your original pain points still remain, and how many were due to incorrect framework and Kotlin use? Yeah, that's a great question, and I don't know the answer. Because, as I mentioned, unfortunately, right now the priority for Node.js and Ruby guys are still Ruby and Node.js services. So we will see when we start with something new in Kotlin, how it actually look like. So I know that everyone would like to write a Kotlin, but the current situation is a little bit tricky. Have you considered data access object approach for the Kotlin exposed? Uh, yes, but to be honest, we have like 10 entities maybe. So we started originally with single one that way, and currently we don't have a reason to switch to the ORM. Have you considered Ktor instead of Spring Boot? Again, it was like discussed one of the solution. It was also explored by the other tribe, but currently the only frameworks are uh, Spring Boot and HTTP4J in Productboard. Do you also develop mobile applications in Productboard? If yes, have you tried Kotlin multi-platform to share something for Android and iOS? No, we are not. And the last one, there were many comparisons Java Kotlin. So what are the real benefits for business? Nicer code is not reason, right? Less bugs, faster delivery. Yeah, the reason again, what I mentioned, the reason is like not the right, nicer code. It's not the aim what we need to achieve, but it was about how we were able to switch from like Ruby and TypeScript to new language, and the Kotlin is definitely like better for it because it's more similar to TypeScript and Ruby from matter of syntax, and it also open us better hiring potential because we can hire like anyone related to Java or Scala and Kotlin. So it's that was like the primary reasons. And of course, Kotlin is great. It's about not nicer code. We really like the null checks, the null safety there, the efficiency of the code. But we needed to find some reasoning, and the reasoning wasn't that when we will use Kotlin, we will have less bugs. But the reason was that Kotlin is too good choice to join our tribe to single common technical stack. Okay. So that's all. So thank you very much.